running down a dream. Devil would have come for me, working on a mystery, going wherever we please, running down a dream. Welcome back to StillerBros at the Movies, where today we're going to be talking about some running. Maybe.
Oh, there's always running.
So, a few years ago, we went and saw Mission Impossible Fallout. At the time, Mission Impossible 6. And, well, still Mission Impossible 6. Look, the Mission Impossible franchise is a rather interesting thing. Do you think that when Brian De Palma made the first Mission Impossible movie, he knew that he was going to be kicking off a franchise that would outlive his involvement with it?
I mean, it almost immediately outlived his involvement with it, because he didn't come back for the second one.
No, but after jumping around from director to director, Tom Cruise finally found a creative soulmate, in a sense. Because Christopher McQuarrie, the guy who's directed the last two Mission Impossible movies, and is directing this one and the next one, it has basically been Tom Cruise's go-to guy to writing all of his movies.
Yes. He is now an extra Academy Award. Got an extra Academy Award nomination this past year for being a co-writer on Top Gun Maverick. He also wrote Edge of Tomorrow and a bunch of other stuff. But now he's co-writing and directing this movie, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
But the Mission Impossible movies are more than just its writer. Actually, arguably, they are not even their writer, because the thing about the Mission Impossible movies is that they're the kinds of movies that you love to watch while they're happening, but then they just kind of go into the background. Like, did you know the writers of the fourth one actually were the writers of that Little Scene Nickelodeon Movies Project Wonder Park from a few years ago? Because they were.
Yeah. But this one has had kind of a bit of an uphill battle because of a little thing called COVID-19.
So, COVID shut down every production.
And this is probably one of the last major productions that was shut down during COVID.
That they started before COVID and then shut down and then restarted. Because by now, a lot of the movies that were shut down in the early days of COVID and then restarted and pushed through already came out, but this might be the last ones. And this one is somewhat noteworthy because of that. Because during the pandemic, when they found a way to restart our auctions, this was one of the first ones that restarted.
Tom Cruise put a lot of his own money up onto the table because he wanted to get this production started as much as possible, and because of that, he ended up putting all these COVID protocols into place, and he even rented out a cruise ship so the entire cast and crew could quarantine on board.
Yeah, but of course, that meant that when he saw crew members breaking social distancing protocols, he went particularly viral for going off on everybody about whether or not social distancing protocols were being followed. And that's kind of amazing, because Scientologists apparently believe in medicine now.
Yeah. Was it maybe not the best way to get his point across? Maybe. Was it totally something he had every right to do? Yeah.
It was definitely something that was necessary, especially since he laid out his point very well that, yes, this was a production early in COVID where if that production didn't work out, then lots of other productions would shut down. The entire industry was looking to them. You kind of understand Tom's meaning, and also the fact that he was the one sinking his money into these the COVID protocols.
And so he had a right to be angry about it. And yeah, we kind of were on his side about the fact that he kind of freaked out on people, even if it was kind of unnecessary and a little bit of a dick move.
But past that, we've got Mission Impossible has basically been one of Tom Cruise's passion projects by the fact that Tom Cruise seriously might have a death wish.
This is basically the only kind of stuff he's making now.
Basically, Tom Cruise has decided years ago that if there was a stunt to be done, he was going to try to do it himself. And that means doing pretty natural stuff, like if there's a scene where he's running or fighting, he does it, to crazy things like hanging off the side of a plane, learning to fly a helicopter from scratch, learning to fly a jet from scratch, and then forcing all of his co-stars to also learn to fly jets from scratch.
And in this movie in particular, fighting on top of a train and riding a motorcycle off of a cliff.
Now, not to say that Tom Cruise is really trying to kill himself, because obviously he and the rest of the crew work really hard to make sure that these stunts go off without a hitch. That Tom isn't just risking his life to entertain people, which that's a hell of a reason to try to risk your life every day of your just to entertain people. Like, Tom, don't go losing your life on account of us.
No, but it doesn't matter. But obviously, Tom is a very big proponent of continuing to do as much practically as possible, and he doesn't really mind how dangerous it looks on the surface.
And of course, the part of making sure that everything is as realistic as possible has kind of supposedly leaked its way into this movie, because the villain is working with AI, which became somewhat relevant today, because Hollywood is shut down because 2 different strikes revolving around what AI could potentially do to replace people.
Yes. Pay your writers, pay your actors, fuck you if you just think you can replace everybody with AI.
It's just a matter of this whole thing this is going to be one of the last movies before the strike I took it full effect, where that could actually finish its promotional run.
Yeah, because Oppenheimer just had its premiere, and Cillian Murphy and Emily Blunt walked out of the premiere the second that the strike took effect.
Barbenheimer next week is not going to be well promoted by its actors or its writers because of the fact that essentially they are on strike, and that's part of it. And now there's a lot of other movies coming out for the rest of the summer and the rest of the year, and potentially the rest of the year that can't be promoted by the people who made them.
Press junkets are going to be very few and far between for the next couple of weeks. For at least hopefully the next couple of weeks. We can always hope that these strikes end as soon as possible.
But we're not. But as much as we are talking about the strikes, the Mission Impossible movies should also be mentioned. We should also mention people who are not Tom Cruise in this movie, because shockingly, there are people who are not Tom Cruise in this movie.
Yes, we have, of course, the returns of Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, and Rebecca Ferguson from the previous films, and the additions of Haley Atwell and Tom Clementif.
Of course, God knows it was a matter of time before they started bringing Marvel people into these.
Yes.
There's just too many actors working in Marvel for them to not have just decided to pull them into the Mission Impossible framework.
Yes.
And of course, yeah, that's about all we've got. The Mission Impossible movies aren't exactly stuff that we dig too deep into what the plot is or dig too deep into certain cast and crew members. It's just a matter of, hey, look, they made another big Mission Impossible movie. Tom Cruise is doing another big stunt for the trailer. Looks like fun. Guess I'll check it out.
I think the only thing that's really worth talking about is the fact that this is part 1 of two parts, and we made it all the way to premiere to the movie being released, and we have not gotten a change in the title where they dropped the part 1 and the next one's going to be called something different. So that's something interesting to think about.
Usually this will happen. Like the last time I can think of where it didn't happen was the Mockingjay.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to think this is going to be a bigger story, and it is still a big globe-trotting adventure, even though, like we said, they were making this through like the very big amount of through like the bigger parts of COVID.
And whether or not this eventually leads to something else, you gotta admit they did that. At least the people making it were passionate.
Yeah.
Because usually when a franchise goes this long, it's like, why are we even doing this anymore? But clearly somebody cared enough to keep the production going. Somebody cared enough to notice when 2 crew members were accidentally standing a little too close to each other.
And a lot of people have been noticing that this movie has been getting some pretty good reviews.
So, yeah, Mission Impossible 7. It's probably going to be good because the last couple ones have been good.
Yep.
So, I guess we'll be back after the jump. So, yeah, that was another Mission Impossible movie, so it was really good.
You pretty much get what you expect at this point. They got these running like Swiss watches where you pretty much go in expecting a Mission Impossible movie, and that was a Mission Impossible movie.
Are we going to ignore the fact you just said running?
Yeah.
Take a shot. But, yeah, once again, it's a Mission Impossible movie. If you want a Mission Impossible movie, it's a Mission Impossible movie. So, let's get a bit deeper into it. This is... Christopher Corey, once again, knows how to build intrigue out of these characters and these scenarios. There's a whole deeper understanding, layers upon layers of double agents, triple agents, quadruple agents, all falling into place, and it all works.
Yeah, we got some really cool action stuff going on. We're kind of getting stoked for what the next part of this is going to be, because we got part 2 apparently still coming next year.
Of the 3 part 1s that we've seen this summer so far, this one is the least cliffhangery.
Yeah.
Like certain things have been set into place for a part 2, but also it's not leaving on a cliffhanger. Ethan Hunt is not in any immediate danger as we leave things. There's no point where we're just questioning how are they going to get out of this situation. God, I hope they figured something out so that it's very believable. It's very much a case of this is only split into 2 parts so that we can, because there's a whole lot of stuff that we need to cram into this movie.
There's we get a lot of stuff built up. But it is still it is definitely part 1 to a complete story, but we still get a complete movie, and we can only hope that they plan on doing part 2 where you can watch it standalone, same as this one.
Now let's get into things. I don't think we need to tell anyone that Tom Cruise, at least in the action sequences, is giving it his all. He really knows what he's doing. He goes in there and he's pretty much the architect of this whole thing, where literally his name comes in before the director, the actor, a Tom Cruise production.
A Tom Cruise production. His name is appears twice in the opening credits.
Within the span of about 20 seconds.
Yep. So these are Tom Cruise movies. Haley Atwell is basically playing the character she has been playing for the last 10 years since being in Captain America.
Well, actually, in a lot of ways, she's kind of playing the opposite of that character. Whereas Peggy is very sure of herself, very forthright and clear on who he is and what her role is in every situation she's in. In the character of Grace is just kind of the normal person dragged into the situation in this movie.
Yeah.
And Ving Rhames, it's always nice to see him in here as essentially just Ethan's best friend. No real other role, a whole other than Ethan's best friend and guy in the chair.
And Simon Pegg is obviously there to add some comedic relief, although he's not in it as much as I thought he would be. I imagine he's probably going to have a bigger part in part 2.
Who was, shockingly, in more of this than you would think, was Cary Elwes.
Yeah.
Who doing a much more sinister version of his American accent from Hot Shots.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I mean, we've seen a lot of Cary Elwes, obviously Princess Bride and Hot Shots and Robin Hood Men in Tights and Stranger Things 3, but this is kind of an interesting thing because he's playing a character we haven't seen him play before.
And then there's Pom Klementieff joining the party, and Hardy, all of her dialogue is entirely in French, which she is a fluent speaker of, so no issue there. And her style is very much what I would describe as punk rock Barbie.
Yeah, she kind of looks like kind of looks like if Taylor Swift had done kind of got stuff that looks like if Taylor Swift had gone all Alanis Morissette, properly.
Like in the first scene you see her, she's in a leather jacket and a plaid skirt. Then she's in a marching band outfit, and then she's just in a black suit. It's kind of fun. Like, oh look, I see she's entered the Welcome to the Black Parade era of punk rock Barbie.
Yes.
And it's just kind of fun to see her acting her ass off in certain action scenes, while also giving James Gunn quite the audition for the potential of her playing Harley Quinn in the DCU.
If they don't intend to bring Margot back,
we have no clue right now.
Yeah.
But all in all, everything else, I mean, the stunts are impressive just because they pull a lot of the stunt coordinators are clearly putting in a lot of work to do so. No, I mean, for God's sakes, they built a train just so that they could crash it.
Yeah, the only CGI the only real CGI involved in certain stunts is to remove a ramp for when Tom goes over a cliff.
And of course there's there's the fact that this movie is the first one that actually tries to give Ethan Hunt a backstory, at least as much as they can in part one of a 2-part movie.
Yeah, because obviously this is a story that will continue, as we've said multiple times already, into a part 2. We'll see what happens with that part 2.
But once again, this as part 1s go, this is the least cliffhangery. This does not end. This isn't like Across the Spider-Verse where we were watching the entire ending. Everything was wrapping up perfectly for a part 2, and then suddenly it's like to be continued, and some girl who has been pretty much pointing out every Easter egg and superhero and hero next to me just screams, "What?"
Or Fast X, where it's like, how are you gonna get yourselves out of this one, assholes?
Especially since, once again, this movie did not remove part 1 from its title at any point during production. So it still puts part 1 at the front of it, in the title at the front, and end of part 1 just before the credits start rolling.
Unlike Dune, where they didn't advertise part 1, and then they stuck part 1 in the movie, so you're like, oh wow, they're really hoping that this is a hit. Fortunately for them, it was a hit, and we get part 2 soon.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, what else? The music is very normal music for Mission Impossible.
There's actually they actually spent a lot of time in the action sequences not having music, just to beef up the tension, and that's kind of and that's a little refreshing, that you're just sitting there and there's no music, and you're just in the scene, and there's no tense music or anything playing. It's just the scene, and and you get all of the noises and everything, and you're like, are they going to make it out?
And that's mostly in the car chase through who roam in about the beginning of the second act,
as well as the train fight, as well as a lot of the stuff at the train fight at the end of the movie.
And it's very much a case of, okay, let's just have the entire thing be covered up by the noise of the chase. Everything is just building and going, and it's just loud and fast and everything.
I would almost say maybe they forgot to, maybe while they were doing the mix, they forgot to put the score into this, but they do too much work in these kinds of movies that they would forget something like that.
Yeah, but other than that, this is a well-made movie. It's another Mission Impossible movie that just kind of gets what you're here for. You're not here for you're here for big side stories that just that twist and turn along the way, and you just kind of need to pay attention, or you're here for the weird stunts, and you just sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself for the most part. Whereas action scenes that very rarely get made as practically as this suddenly appear here, even if there's not an alien or anything to be seen throughout it.
There's also we also do kind of get a warning, a sort of cautionary tale on the danger on where AI could take us, which on what AI could end up doing and taking us. So, you know, pay your goddamn writers and actors, you stupid idiots.
But in the long run, yeah, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, very solid entry in the Mission Impossible franchise. Don't know where it ranks for us, but it's definitely another one that I wouldn't mind seeing again.
These are just kind of, at this point, they're basically just coming off the assembly line. Solid movies, all in all. Pretty awesome to see. And now we just have to wait for the next one to come. And then Mission Impossible 2 will hit the Twitterverse.
So, for right now, unless there's anything else to say, I think that's it for this episode. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, share this video with your friends and enemies. Don't forget to leave in the comments what you thought of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And don't forget to tune in next time when, well, either I am Death, Destroyer of Worlds, or do you guys ever think about dying? Bye.
Bye.